Hey, what's up? Welcome to the first ever episode of Green Med Music. I'm your host, FX2, and FX2 Studios is bringing you this all Green Med Music podcast. We are a 420 friendly podcast, so you know we'll be discussing all things green all the time. If you are a musician or you just love music, go to thechronicmagazine.com. Join. It's free. Then you can submit a request to be in the Med Music group. You can drop your tunes there and have the audience vote on how they feel when they're lit and listening to your hits. I mean, this is a great collaboration between our studio here and the Chronic magazine. I know that the people there are really excited to be up in the App Store. So download their app today. It's free. Once again, you'll see all of the different topics they have to offer you, news and recipes and everything from entertainment to politics. And like I said earlier, there are groups you can join. You can stay anonymous if you're worried about that. If you want your music to be heard and have people comment on it. This is an awesome opportunity. I really, really hope you guys dig this because it's something that we did here at FX2 Studios because of one reason. I'm going to shout out one of my good friends. I call him Frankie Bones. Yeah. Frankie is one of the coolest mofos out there here on Strong Island, New York, and he is a green enthusiast to say the least. And he had blown my mind a few nights ago when I went over just to chit chat for a little while, and he took me into this hidden room of his and unzipped a peak hole, and I thought for a minute I was going to see something illegal, but you know what? 100% legal medical marijuana here in New York. Growing plants indoors. I'm telling you guys, I saw a 16-week-old Gorilla Glue plant flourishing. I mean, 16 weeks for any of you out there that know anything about growing marijuana is that usually you're harvesting before that date, or that duration of time. But after speaking with Frankie, he was telling me how the Gorilla Glue plant just kept growing. 14 weeks, 15 weeks, 16 weeks in, this thing is an absolute monster. I'm telling you, it grew to about 8 foot. It was basically just about clipping the ceiling or the top of the enclosed zippered nylon housing that you guys can find if you want to indulge in trying to grow your own crop indoors. I highly suggest it. My man Frankie turned me on to a few different strains he was growing in there. One happened to be the Gorilla Glue, which was an absolute monster, but he showed me the Do-si-do also, and the Do-si-do was definitely one of my favorites prior to even seeing the plant. I went to the dispensaries here on Long Island and I sampled both of those strains, the Do-si-do and the Gorilla Glue. Both pretty much a real indica type of body high feeling. With the exception of the do-si-do, I think that particular strain kind of plays a little bit of a ping pong game inside your brain, if you know what I'm saying. So, what the fuck is this podcast all about? It's all about green med music. So everything that has to do with medical marijuana, the innovations and the different research that has been coming out from all of these new studies that have been shown to prove once and for all with empirical evidence that medical marijuana is in fact probably the safest holistic medication out there, and it is by far less dangerous, less addictive, less expensive, and less dangerous than pharmaceutical medications that are prescribed to you. So, FX2 Studios wanted to really reach out to our audience, see if we can pick up some more people here on the YouTube circuit, which is a first for us. But we believe that people that are using the YouTube platform, well, there's a lot of people out there that are 420 friendly, so we're going to offer you a podcast, all right? And this is in its infancy. So anyone out there that wants to throw a little greenbacks into the mix by, advertising or whatever, guess what? We greatly appreciate it, because right now my bank account is dwindling down with all these studio hours and shit, and I'm afraid my wife is really going to come down on me for doing this. So before that happens and I'm MIA, why don't you guys take advantage of the audience that's tuning in right now, and that will be every single episode, and expose yourself, be vulnerable, show us your brand, because the community of 420 friendly people, we spend money, man, and we have all different types of different interests and different ways to waste money. I know from personal experience that when I'm a little bit over the rainbow, so to speak, I tend to go on shopping sprees, which is not advisable. So, don't go on your iPhone or your Android and choose Amazon or eBay or something like that to scroll through. Why don't you just listen to this podcast? Because it's going to be pretty fucking funny. I'm telling you that right now. We're going to have guests on and shit. We're going to have growers. We're going to have all different types of musicians and music producers who are 420 friendly all the way. They're promoting themselves and also the advancement of the medical marijuana movement here in America. People, you really need to understand that although it's legal here in a few states, it's not legal on a federal level yet, which really does diminish our ability to do research, to have different strains crossing state lines, for instance, and there are still possibilities of imprisonment that lay out there because the federal government has not redefined their take on a class 1 scheduled narcotic called cannabis. It's hilarious. It really is, because if I'm not mistaken, it was 1970, 71 when they had that sweeping class 1 narcotic bill go through the House or whatever, and it still exists today, and it basically gives a false representation of what marijuana or cannabis does to the human body, because the definition of a class 1 narcotic is something that has absolutely none of the beneficial medicinal effects. Now, think about that for one second, okay? How many times have you been stressed out and you get a little lifted and forget about all of that shit, and it reduces your anxiety level? Right there, that is an outstanding example of the medicinal use of marijuana. So people, I don't know what the fuck we need to do. Maybe speak up a little bit more, or just, start growing an audience off of this show. Maybe you guys want to start your own podcast or whatever. That would be cool. I am not here to be the spokesperson at all for the medical marijuana movement in America, but I know that a lot of you out there have social platforms and big followings, audiences that we would love you to connect us with, so that we're all one, united, unified type of revolutionary party, I guess you would say, right? So we want to change a little bit of the governmental restrictions. And if you think back to your history books, I mean, unless you're a millennial, I don't know what they're teaching nowadays, but we all learned about the Boston Tea Party, right? So there was unfair taxation on a commodity. Now, there is taxation on the medical marijuana commodity on a state level, but what the fuck is the federal government so afraid of to legalize cannabis? First and foremost, you would have to pay a federal tax, so it would be more expensive for the consumer. That sucks, but like we started off this podcast speaking about in-house planting, I mean, this is something that everybody needs to start embracing. If we can just grow our own, then the federal government will receive their taxes from those who go to the dispensary. But, for those of us who don't like paying those commercial prices and we have a little bit of patience and a couple of bucks to throw down for the basic setup, less than $400 or $500 probably, you'll be able to grow your own Do-si-do or Gorilla Glue plant or any other strain that you like. So I don't want to take too much time on these podcasts, because I know that if you're a little lifted, you're probably zoning off or whatever. And I just want to reinforce the fact that we are on thechronicmagazine.com. Go to thechronicmagazine.com, join today, then go to groups and find Med Music, and you can listen to 420 friendly music. You can comment, you can vote, you can even upload your own music if you're a music producer, or if you're just a music enthusiast. why don't you get lit? Find a really cool musician or, music group or band or whatever it is that makes you feel better than you did a minute before you started listening to them, and throw them into the chat group Med Music on thechronicmagazine.com. And if you want more information about anything, or you want to talk to any of us here, just go to FX2 Studios with a Z.com. You can also email me, fx2 at fx2studios.com. I'll talk to you guys on the flip side.